Welcome to The Short Score, your weekly update of roping news from around the industry, where you can find the latest on the sport from the pro rodeo ranks to the jackpot world. I'm Taylor Vollen, and I'm your host. Today's episode is brought to you by Purina, and later in the episode, you'll be getting to hear a little bit more about our sponsor. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of The Short Score. It's your host, Taylor Vollen. Since last week's episode was such a hot topic, and I noticed there were some areas regarding the new Crossfire rule that people had some more questions on, I figured we'd revisit the subject today. To clarify some things on the rule, I had the awesome opportunity to talk with pro official Harry Rose, who's been in the judging game since 1994 and has actually flagged the team roping at the finals 21 times. Before we get started, I do just want to remind you of how the new rule reads. The heel rope cannot come in contact with the steer's legs until both A, the header has control of the steer's head, and B, the steer's hips have changed direction with the steer having forward motion. A steer that stops, slows down, or drifts towards the header must still fulfill Rule A and B. If you don't mind kind of just explaining to me a little bit more about what that rule is, the new one.
The way the rule read before was the header must rope, dally, and change direction with the steer, and the steer could not be roped. The heeler could not throw his rope until the completion of the initial switch. Now it's making it easier that the header must have control of the steer's head.
Mm-hmm.
The hips of the steer must change direction and be forward motion. Then he's legal to rope.
Perfect. So now, what exactly is it that you guys are looking for now?
Well, the header has to have control of the steer's head, which means that, the head rope's got to be tight.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only part that really is going to be different. The head rope's got to be tight. The hips have got to change direction, which if the head rope's tight and he starts off, the hips will change direction.
Mm-hmm.
Then he's going to be legal. Doesn't matter if he's still swinging, as long as his hips have changed directions and there's forward motion.
And what is exactly considered forward motion? I know we had some comments. People were wondering what that exactly is going to be.
Just as long as that steer has started going forward, like if you're standing still and you go to take a step, you're starting your forward motion.
Perfect. Someone was asking, is it going off of the back legs before the rope can touch, or is it front shoulders and legs?
No, the back legs.
Back legs.
Back hips have got to change direction and then have a forward motion to him.
Mm-hmm.
There's still going to be probably some swing, and that's not going to matter anymore.
Mm-hmm.
As long as there's forward motion.
Okay.
Some of those places, like the NFR, there's always swing at the NFR because the arena's so small.
Mm-hmm. So what is, taking away the switch is kind of the biggest difference, correct, between the new rule?
Yes. The switch, how much swing are you going to allow? Where does the switch end?
Mm-hmm.
That's what a lot of people are getting hung up on.
Mm-hmm. So what exactly makes this rule easier now or more simple?
By just taking that switch out.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about if he's swinging. Just look for the forward motion, and as long as his hips have changed direction.
Got it. Level up your horse's performance this season with choices from Purina Animal Nutrition. From Purina Ultium Competition Formula to Purina Impact Pro Performance and everything in between, Purina has the right option for your horse, including supplements like Purina SuperSport Amino Acid Supplement, Purina Amplify High Fat Supplement, and Purina Outlast Gastric Support Supplement. There are many choices for optimal nutrition when you choose Purina, all backed by science. Level up your performance this season and put Purina's research to the test. Ask for Purina at your local feed retailer today. Something that I think is worth noting too about the new Crossfire rule is that it actually was expedited. So, according to the PRCA rulebook, a rule proposal must be published in the PRCA business section no less than once per month for an entire year and shall not be acted upon by the competition committee until the legislative meetings of the competition committee in the calendar year following the year in which the proposal is first published. However, the rulebook also states that in some cases, a proposal can be voted on to not have to wait an entire year, and as you've probably guessed, that was the case here with this rule. So, to better understand the entire process for making this rule change, why this was the best change, and why it needed to happen so quickly, I spoke with someone who can definitely explain it a lot better for you guys than I can, and also, most importantly, played a huge role in the proposal, and that is 2019 world champ Wesley Thorpe. So, tell me a little bit about, first off, just kind of the process of creating a rule or changing a rule in the PRCA, because it's completely done by you contestants, correct?
Yes. In this case, it was something where I think everybody was ready for a change with the rule. And I think it starts with headers are getting better at still being able to use the rope, but also having a lot of control. More guys are good at rounding the steer out and handling the steer better while they're using the rope, throwing more rope, but still being able to handle the steer. So I think is what you've seen the past couple of years, or guys are getting it on the steer fast, reaching, but then they're rolling the steers better, or even if they don't reach, they're still heading them and rounding the steers out more and kind of making a smoother corner. And as what happened is those steers were rolling more than used to. And when they would roll, sometimes they would make another hit further down the arena. Mm-hmm. And when that happened, I think in the old rule, it was called, they had to complete the switch before the rope was delivered. And with that being said, you were splitting the judge's eyes having to watch the rope being delivered, which means technically leave your hand, and when the steer completes the switch. Well, really, when we broke it down, nobody could really simplify it or even define what the switch actually was, and everybody had their own opinion of that. And so it was causing a lot of problems because that steer would be rolling and then make a hit or might make a drastic move after it was legal, and the judge was seeing that as a switch, which rightfully so, because it was an abrupt corner or something after it was legal, and also having to tell when the healer delivered. So if the healer might have started his delivery and the flagger was thinking he did deliver, or if it's hard to split eyeballs when it comes to what steer's doing and the roper's hands doing at the same time. So I think everybody's ready for a change. So we kind of sat down and studied it, and everyone thinks it's easy to write a rule. It really comes down to writing it in the best, simplest form possible that doesn't have some sort of conflict somewhere, right? So it seems, you think, I'll sit down. It actually took a lot of time to look it over and think about it, and okay, well, that wording didn't work for this situation, or this wording didn't work for that situation, or, oh, this is going to cause a problem here. And when it came down to it, we had to find one spot for the judge to look, and that was the hips and what they did. And after those hips did what they're supposed to do, as long as they did that, the rope could touch at any time.
Gotcha.
So the eyeballs were able to be focused on one thing only. And so that's where we started and tried to simplify it the best we could to where the flagger or judge could focus on one thing only. And kind of help, not cater, but help define what the switch was, but also take the switch out of the equation, or the in tow, because that was one that you've probably seen all over social media. Everybody's hung up on this in tow thing, and they think well, in tow hadn't even been in the rule book actually in a while, but anyway, that needed to be cleared up because I mean I've been rodeoing for 7-8 years. I don't even know what in tow means, and the switch is it's just roping has evolved. Steers have gotten a little smaller. People do it a little different. Handles have gotten a little smoother. Things like that. So it just needed to be rewritten. And I think, after having a seminar, it will, obviously it's never going to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I don't expect to be perfect. I just think that it's at least a step in the right direction with PRCA working with the Cowboys to help make a change, to upgrade, to current competition. And so I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. How long ago was it? Do you remember when it was that you guys kind of sat down and got this process started?
It started in the fall whenever we started making progress on it, somewhere around October.
Mm-hmm. And you played, from what I was told, a very major part in it, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to take
credit.
Or anything. It's not. I've communicated a lot, with judges and Rick and guys up there, and I feel like I have a pretty good relationship with them, and I was able to kind of help put some of that together, and then I tried to do my part as well with the flagger that I've known a long time to help write the rule.
Mm-hmm.
So I tried to do my best on that part. I just, I definitely think it's easy to complain. I don't know. I have a pet peeve about people complaining and not doing anything to help. So if I'm going to, have a problem with anything, I'm either going to do my part to help or keep my mouth shut.
Yeah, because actions speak so much louder than words, I feel like.
I totally agree, and I just think, I usually don't. I just don't like complainer. I really don't. So I felt like whenever Rick was definitely willing, actually at the beginning of the year, he wanted to rewrite this rule and things, and so we kind of stayed in touch along the way, and then had a chance to do it, and sat down and kind of tried to make some of these changes happen the best we could.
Yeah. Was it a pretty big group of you guys that worked on it together?
There was some guys that showed up at the seminar that we had when all the judges came over, but the first day it was mainly the 12 main judges, myself, and then a well-known flagger that I've kind of known since I was little. Started roping flags, ropings all over the country.
Yeah.
Biggest ropings, but it was mainly us starting out, and then we kind of, wrote the rule best we could tell, and then showed it to other competitors, and they all seemed to kind of get on board with it. And I'm sure there's going to, we tried to show it to as many people as we could, whether circuit guys or guys that are rodeoing full time. But like I said, we obviously there's going to be somebody that thought it was probably not written right. But I would like to add that, like, if you get too complex, it doesn't work. And there's no way, if you start talking about 90-degree angles and this happening, and if this happens, you void this rule and all this. We played a lot of scenarios and tried to cut out any gray area as far as making it too complicated, because, I mean, there are all kinds of ways you can word it, and that might work. But as far as training that many judges and people and getting on the same page, you have to make it as simple as possible, and that was the goal behind it.
No, and that makes sense. And kind of like you said, like, it's not ever going to be perfect, but making it more simple is a step in the right direction, I definitely feel like.
Absolutely, because, I mean, the last thing we wanted to do was take the rule out. I mean, you can't, with the ability guys have today, I mean, if you take that out, it definitely ruins our sport. So we did not want to, we didn't want to ruin the sport and take the rule out at all. That wasn't even an option. So we just wanted to simplify it and try to get it improved the best we could.
So that's kind of a common misconception then, huh? Because you see a lot of people saying, just take it out, but that's not actually what you guys want, it sounds like.
That's right. We definitely don't want it taken out, because I think you'll see guys do better that shouldn't do as well. You know, it'll take a worse horse. It just really kind of ruins the sport, I think. I mean, you get by with more lucky things you could get by with. You could, you know, I just think you got to hold the foundation of the sport in general, and that's a big part of it, being able to ride in good position and still throw fast as you can without cheating, you know. So
yeah,
I you know, you do see that all over social media. And that's the guys that are the best at throwing fast or crossfiring per se do not want that. So I mean, there's not really anybody in favor of that. So I think that says a lot in itself.
Right. Tell me a little bit about that seminar that you had at your house, because I don't feel like a lot of people know about that, but from everything that I've heard, it was a really positive, really good day is what it sounded like. So just kind of tell me what that was.
I think so. I mean, I tried to invite as many people as I could that live around here that are, you know, in the mix. Some guys chose not to come. Some guys did. And there was a handful of us, and we tried to I actually had some realistic steers and some older steers that kind of followed and did some things. So I tried to have a big variety of steers to practice on it for, so that we could kind of get a look. And we actually had some good video to be able to get footage of it. And we would video it, and if there was a question, the judges could watch it and see what we thought. And they watched it from different angles, and you know, different guys would stand in different areas and watch it. We flagged from a few different spots, and I just thought it was good for the judges and the team ropers to communicate together. That way that they also knew we're trying to help and not just complain, as well as we know, you know, they actually, all 12 of the main judges came down. I mean, they had I believe it was optional the way I was described to me, and they all chose to come. So I mean, it definitely showed an effort on their part to come, and so I thought that was pretty neat. And we definitely, I tried to do the best I could to get some different scenarios set up, and I thought it was good to communicate on what we thought, to get it on the same page anyway, because at the end of the day, whatever the rule is, as long as it's consistent, it works. You know, I think if those 12 guys can have a consistent view of it and can help train the guys along the way, it will make a big difference.
Right. I feel like that kind of answers my next question, but like we said, it's never going to be perfect. But what is it that you guys, you healers, and headers, because you guys are a team, but what is it that you guys want from judges? You know what I mean? Is it just that consistency where you guys can agree on the call?
Yeah, I think the key there is just consistency and an understanding of, you know, I think the last thing you want to do is everybody puts a lot of effort into the sport. I mean, you're traveling all over the country, sending places. You got partners and family involved and the whole deal. So I think everybody's scattered out and trying to get somewhere. And I think the last thing you want to do is put in all the effort for what you think is a rule or what you think you've prepared for, and then all of a sudden it gets called against you, or what isn't the rule, or called a different way, or however you want to say it. So I think as long as it's consistent and everybody knows what they're supposed to do in their event, and the clearer that is, the better. So I think that's consistency is the key there as far as what everybody's looking for, and I think that's the goal.
Why was this the change that you guys decided on? Like the new rule, why do you think that wording works?
To me, it works because it is set up for soon as this happens, that's over. There's nothing to look for after. You know, the judge can say, when the hips do this, okay, this has happened, boom, it's done. All I got to watch is the hips, and then after this, you know, I can set my alarm off or whatever, and no matter what happens after that, it doesn't matter. It has been legal. So I think in the past, there was the way it was worded was, okay, this happened, oh man, he switched, again or something, and that it might not have been complete. The switch wasn't complete, so it was almost like a never ending of when it could be legal if something happened after that time. So it's hard to follow in terms of it could, obviously, or if they were studied on the healer throwing, and then there was a sudden movement down the arena, with the switch or something, it may have thrown a red flag to, the judge's mind to where it triggered him as that was a switch. So I think this eliminates that to where they can focus on one thing, and after that happened, it's over. And so that is why that was the goal and how the rule was written, to where they could look for almost why to flag it clean instead of why not to flag it clean. It was almost set up the other way to where they were looking for that word switch, and if that happens, I'm going to flag them out. And it's almost like it could have been a smooth handle, and then a switch happened, and you got flagged out. And it just seems like it's flipped to where, in the judge's mind, it could be where, when can I flag them clean versus how not to flag them clean. They're looking for why to flag them instead of why not to.
Yeah, that's fair. Why was it so important? And it's going to be a no-brainer, I feel like. But this process was kind of sped up for y'all, wasn't it? Like, it was kind of, I guess you could say, expedited.
Yes.
Why was that so important?
So I think that team roping has gotten so competitive. More guys have just stepped up to the plate. There's younger guys involved that have stepped up, and it's just gotten so competitive to where they're just, little mistakes in rules or times or where you throw could make a huge difference. And a lot of these rodeos are tournament style, so in the winter, if you maybe get flagged out for Crossfire in the third one at San Antonio, but you had to be fast, so you had to take a fast throw, but you're splitting hairs, and if you're flagged out, you don't advance to the semis.
Right.
You're kind of out of the whole thing. And I just think there's been enough, whether it was coincidentally or what, there's been enough scenarios happen that cost guys pretty big opportunities in those positions, whether it was the semis or finals or to the finals or however that laid out. It just seemed like there was enough instances where I think everybody was ready for a change. I think the judges were, the PRCA was, the Cowboys were. So whenever they were getting tired of being put in that position as well, I just think that calls for, whenever everybody's uncomfortable with the situation, I think it's a good time for a change. So and Caleb Drigger stepped in as the new team roping director, and I think he's the great person for that role. So he's very on the ball, takes care of business. You really don't want anybody else. I don't think there's anybody else that could do a better job. So he played a big role in communicating with the PRCA and the judges and helping us all work together instead of, this group of Cowboys having this idea, this group having this idea, and this group having, we travel all over the damn world and we don't communicate amongst ourselves enough. So, I do think if the Cowboys communicated better, they could get more things changed for the better. Not in a negative way, just being able to work together to make a plan. Because we can't even agree amongst ourselves. How can we expect them to make it better?
True, and that that's very mature to say that, I feel like.
And I think that's our biggest hole in general. It's our fault more than it is anybody else's. So I just think it was a good step. It all kind of worked itself out. Drigger's helped play a role. The PRCA have been supportive in it. Rick Smith, he's head of officials. I think he did a good job being proactive and seeing that through. And Tom seems to want to do what he can to better the sport. So I think it just kind of all worked together in a positive way to, they realized there was a problem, and, Cowboys worked together to try to make, try to feel better. And then it just kind of kept moving forward, and there was no need in waiting it out.
Yeah. Well, and it's just so refreshing. It's, it's such a divisive call, I feel like. It causes so many problems. So it's nice to see that you guys, took matters in your own hands, getting the rule fixed, and you guys had support from the judges. I feel like that's a refreshing point of view.
I do too, and I think that was, like I said, I think that was a good thing that did come from the seminar. It was more of how can we work together to make maybe not just on the Crossfire rule, but how do we, as a whole, what do we need to all look for? Because
Mm-hmm.
they're not trying to dictate our event. They're just there to do their job, and I think the more you communicate with what works best and
Mm-hmm.
what everybody's looking for, it's a lot easier to get on the same page.
Right. So you feel good about it? You feel like it's a good fix?
Like I said, I don't think it'll be perfect. I don't think you could ever expect that. I mean, there's going to be contestants think it, didn't work enough, or there's going to be, it's never going to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think it was a good move in the right direction as far as on the contestant side and the PRCA side working together to try to make it better.
Mm-hmm.
It will be better. I do. I mean, I think it will help. I think the more borderline calls will be flagged clean,
Mm-hmm.
is my opinion. I don't necessarily think it'll be more lenient. I just don't think you'll see as many calls that were blatant or borderline. I don't think you'll see as many of them get flagged out.
Right.
Is my opinion.
Right. Well, Leslie, I really appreciate you talking with me.
You bet. Absolutely.
To wrap up today's episode, we'll give you a little update from the Pro Rodeo Road. This weekend saw some smaller rodeos on the West Coast, and the Midwest picked up with a couple of rodeos, but the biggest average check of the weekend was one in Guyman by Derek Begay and Coulter Todd. They both took home a $3,333 average check after roping 3 muleys in 21.9 seconds. Thank you guys for listening to another update on the big Crossfire rule change and our update on the Pro Rodeo front. Thank you again to our sponsors at Purina for bringing you today's episode.